movers and shakers. And my guest today absolutely is a mover and shaker in her field. I'm going to show you the magnificent cover of her recent book.
Really, it's a paradigm changer, what I'm talking about. My passion is for everyone to know that they have a lot more to say about their health than they might have previously thought. And if I were to summarize everything, the connective tissue in our body takes the mechanical form of fiber optics. In addition to its connective nature, we now know it's also protective.
How does that affect us? What does that mean for us? Please elaborate.
When you get scared, every single fiber of fascia in your body squeezes. And the biological purpose of the squeezing is to slow down circulation and squeeze nerves so that if you get in a real big fight, you won't bleed too much and you won't feel it right away. With that understanding alone, many diseases can be understood if you think about it from the perspective of being squeezed inside. High blood pressure is a really simple example of why the heart is having to push the same volume of blood into the same body that it always has. But if the body is being squeezed everywhere inside, the heart is having to work a lot harder to push blood into the far reaches of the body. Open the body up and expand it so that we're sucking blood from the heart into the farthest regions of our body for that supply of oxygen that we need, rather than doing a hard cardio workout to try and slam the heart against the rib cage and force blood into this tight squeezed system. There's a third aspect of the connective tissue, the fascia. It's made up of a fiber optic system, and that is that the fascia communicates. It is the one thing inside you that contacts every other thing inside you, and the information that it can transmit through light happens faster than any nerve impulse we've been able to measure. Imagine with me, if you will, an orange without its peel, still holds its shape. All that white pith holds it together, and we are like that. Just underneath our skin, we have a superficial layer of fascia that connects everything. If we didn't have skin, everything wouldn't just fall down around our ankles. This holds us together. But you know that you can take a section out of the orange, and you notice the section has its own container. And we are like that around all of our organs and muscles. We have a saran wrap type layer of fascia that contains each and every one, so it's possible for us to lift those pieces out of our body, which led Western medicine to believe that we were just a clockwork, that if something went wrong, you could just take it out, put in another one, voila, it wouldn't affect you. But if you open that section, you'll notice that every little piece of pulp has its own container. And we are like that, all the way down to muscle spindle and organelle, all the way down to bone. And bone is just mineralized fascia. All of these pieces are connected to each other. There's nowhere that fascia isn't. It's from your toes to the top of your head to the tips of your fingers. And when you hear a loud noise, you'll jump. That is survival. That is human animal. And in the town where I live, Ojai, California, yoga is very popular. And spiritual practice is very popular. And it's wonderful. But there is a mistaken belief that if you meditate long enough and do yoga enough, that one day you will achieve not being upset about anything ever. And that's just not true. So it has people walking around kind of trying to rise above and kind of bypass that they really do get upset and trying to namaste when what they really mean is up yours, and you get it. It is that slight inauthenticity of someone not really embracing the fact that they do have a human animal. And you don't want to take out your anger on someone, but trying to pretend that you don't have it doesn't work either, which leads me to an analogy. I like to paint visual pictures. This one is the analogy of the cave woman. She used to be able to have an honest reaction to adrenaline. She would come around a corner, suddenly encounter a wild animal. She'd get that huge shot of adrenaline right to the center of her body in the psoas that lift your leg for fight or flight, and she would do it. And once that event was over, she had used her body physically a lot to metabolize through all of that lactic acid plus the uric acid and lactic acid byproduct of muscular use. That stuff that can make you feel achy and sore after a workout. When she moved her body and she ran to safety and did all that fighting, she moved her muscles and the adrenaline got swept away into her kidneys. And if we could measure her urine, we would see that acidic output, the byproduct of fear. Modern woman is driving and she comes around the corner and she gets the same shot of adrenaline when somebody pulls out in front of her that cave woman used to. But she knows that if she were to really react, that she would put everybody in danger, including herself. So she has to tell her body, not now. And the only movement that she can allow her body is from the accelerator to the brake. And everything inside her body clamps down. The fascia squeezes, it pushes in, and it traps that adrenaline right next to the surface of the muscle. Well, she still has a half an hour to drive home. She gets home and she sees her loved ones, and she either processes it intellectually by saying, somebody pulled out in front of us, nearly killed us all, I was terrified. Or she doesn't even remember that it happened. And so she goes on about her day, and that freeze response is inside her body, still there, telling her body, not now, not now, not now. Imagine how many of those in a day, in a lifetime, because there's normal life, and then there's the life peppered by experience. And there are those of us who have had some pretty traumatic experiences. And it can happen just from stepping off the curb funny and your whole body goes into, dear God, we're going to die mode. Mm-hmm. Or it can happen if you're in a vehicle and it rolls over 3 times. And your entire body says, that was life-threatening. The fascia says, we'll never let you get in that position again. We weren't ready for it, but we'll be ready from now on. And we'll just hold constantly. An antidote for this, because so many of us suffer from severe lack of temper tantrum. Modern woman might know that she could produce the same result that cave woman did by obeying the adrenaline at the moment, by going into a private place. Go in your bedroom, close your door, lie on your bed, and allow yourself to begin your SNIT fitness program. You don't even need to be mad or upset, but your body needs to metabolize all of that acidity that's marinating inside you. So if you were to lay on your bed and gently kick your ankles, pound the bed with your heels, and maybe pound with your fists a little bit, and maybe grab a pillow and put that over your face and shout into the pillow, you could interrupt that freeze response, and you should allow yourself to do and say anything, politically correct or not. And some of my favorite phrases are, I'm telling, or I'm the good one, or it's not fair. Things that you wouldn't allow yourself to say because, logically they're not necessarily true, but that your body, your animal inside, is being controlled by your fascia not to say. And after you're done, you can end up having a nice little nap, like a 2-year-old does after a temper tantrum. Nobody was harmed in the SNIT fitness program. You can go on with your day empty of this acidity. There's a chapter in my book called I'm Not Like That. And you don't have to be like that. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person if you feel. And during a treatment, if they feel that they don't want to make a scene, I'll say, let's fill in the blank. People who make a scene are, if I were to make a scene, that would mean, and uncover some of these limiting beliefs inside you that are getting in the way of your being able to clear out the acidity and stickiness inside you. So let's go back. I am I'm probably 32 years old. And I am a massage therapist against all odds. My doctor husband does not approve because I got a master's degree in speech pathology and he expected that that's what I was going to do. However, my body in the process of doing a job that I didn't love hurt a lot. So I would sneak out and get massages. And he thought of massage along the same lines as massage parlor. So I did not care because I knew that when I got the massages, I felt better. And I said so to my massage therapist one day. And she had the gall to say, well, why don't you do this? An unlimited thinker. So 3 months later, I had my massage therapy license, and I had one foot in each world for a while until it became painfully obvious that I was really good at not talking and doing massage. And that the all the time talking and touching no one wasn't fulfilling my soul. So for 8 years, I was a massage therapist, and I loved it. And I went into business with another woman, and she was my business partner. And she kept subtly, quietly, gently, softly saying, I think you might like myofascial release. And I, always being so open to new ideas, said, no, I'm fine. I know everything I need to know. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. Until finally, just to shut her up, I chose the closest, least expensive workshop that I could find called the fascial pelvis. And it was nice and short too. So I would just go get this over with, tell her, yeah, I didn't really care for that, and be done with it. Well, I found myself in this first workshop being taught about the fascia, and they asked for volunteers. And this woman with a perfect body started taking off her sweatpants and lay her beautiful self on the table in front of us all while the therapist demonstrated what's called a sacral hold. You're lying on your back, and she did have a bra and underwear on. And we take our hand and we kind of scoot it up underneath their sacrum, and their tailbone sits right in there, and then they let their legs down, and we hold the sacrum in traction while they just let go, and we encourage them to let go. And this woman began to moan and twist, and I thought, California. But I could fake that too. And in the meantime, there was a woman sitting next to me who was volunteering to talk all the time, raising her hand, well, in my practice this, and in my practice that, and here's what I've experienced. And I just thought, Lord, do not let me get partnered up with her when it's time for us all to split up into individual groups. And the universe has a great sense of humor. And whoever that was, I'm so sorry that I had those judgments for you. But I thought, well, I'm sure I'll be able to help her because I'm really good at this. Wasn't sure if she'd be able to help me. She went first, did the sacral hold. She did a little bit of, and I thought, yep, I'm good. And then when it was my turn and I was lying there and she had her hand on my sacrum between my legs and I was laying on my back, I started to realize I was really pissed off and hiding it. And let me just say, parentheses, I always thought I could hide that. I have found out since that when I'm pissed off, people know it anyway. So I was lying on my back and my chin was wobbling. I was going like that, trying to keep in this anger. And I felt a finger touch me right here. And I did a little peek, and it was the instructor. And she said, let that sound out. And I thought, okay. So I went, and she said, let me get a pillow. So she came back with a pillow, and she allowed me to put that over my mouth. And she said, really let that sound out. And in Jack Nicholson style, I thought, you can't handle that sound. And I kind of decided, you know what? You asked for it. And I just let it rip. I just into that pillow and immediately started thinking, there go any potential referrals. Here I am in a room full of other massage therapists that could have sent clients to me, and now I'm that girl. But there were enough other people in the seminar who were having their noisy bits too that I had to not care. And I moved and I twisted, and I had the feeling of wanting to just push and be pulled and go like that. And it felt like a lifetime of holding was letting go in my body. I ended up sliding off the side of the table, and they gently laid me on the floor. I remember looking up and seeing all the wires underneath the table and thinking, how did I get here? And I kept saying over and over in a whisper, I had no idea. I had no idea. I had no idea. And the instructor whispered in my ear, but what if you did? And from that moment on, my life was changed. I could hear people whispering, we need to get back to class, cover her with a blanket. This shaking that she's doing is very productive. Ronelle, when you feel like you can get it back together, you come and join us, okay? And I was in the snub phase of, and I thought, I have got to get it back together. I will not be my mother. I will not be crazy. And so I got up off the table and went and looked in the mirror in the bathroom, trying to piece it back together. And I saw little red petechia around my eyes, little red burst blood vessels. And the last time I had seen that was when I had given birth to my second child, 3,000 miles from home, having lost my wallet and delivering a month sooner than the doctors said that I would. And it was really an interesting time. He was okay, I was okay, but as soon as the delivery was over, my husband had to fly 3,000 miles back home to finish out his contract. And I and my 20-month-old and my brand new baby got to find us a place to live and settle down in California. So as I look back on it, I cherish my son for being my ticket to stay in California, and I'm grateful. But I had to suck it up. I could not fall apart. I had to keep it together. And in that seminar, it had been 10 years since he was born, and I still had that inside. This is not to even begin to mention my really strict Christian upbringing and some traumatic experiences when I was in private school where they allowed corporal punishment, and my witnessing of acts of abuse and violence that I was not a recipient of, but I was the secret keeper for, that I realized how long I had been telling my body, not now. And so that one experience started me on the path of myofascial release. And it wasn't until Dr. Jean-Claude Gambarteau, a hand specialist from France, took his fiber optic surgical tools inside a living human being and showed us what the material was that we had been working with, that a whole new light was shed on exactly what this fascial system is. Because in the book, if you use your smartphone to read the quick response codes, those little black squares, your phone will take you immediately to a video that I put together that are excerpts from what he showed us. And it's 1 minute and 20 seconds. The name of the YouTube station is Ronelle 1111. And the name of the video is Living Fascia Magnified 25 Times. Now has over 100,000 views because teachers everywhere are using this little tiny video I made for my own clients to show and explain what fascia is, so that when a person is on the table, they can have a visual idea of why it is we move so slowly and what the material is that we're working with, so that we can dispel old myths about breaking up anything. I've even heard the term shredding used, or the belief that force would be helpful, so that other forms of fascial treatment they were on the right track, but when they were trying to force your body to let go, the therapist was getting tired, worn out, burnt out, and injured. The person on the table would develop a feeling of dread as they would head toward their session, and it would create more bracing. And that is the opposite of what we want to create, because we've had enough opportunity to prove how tough we are. And the challenge then is to find out how soft we can be. And we find that with the techniques we use, if we get permission from the body, we can get a much deeper release into the body than if we come at it like it's used to, because it'll just go, I know, I'm used to this. I know what to do with this. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to engage the animal. If you came in, you got on the table, you were lying on your back, I would go to your feet and gently slip my hands under your heels. Lean back like I was going to go water skiing. It's not sudden, it's not jerky, it's not against your readiness, no surprises. And then hang out there for 5 minutes. The feeling is like anti-gravity, because you're always having gravity just slam your feet into the ground and push your hips up into your ribs. What this feels like is an allowing of space. And the words that I use are really important, and I think that's part of my gift. My ability to talk this, as you can tell, and to say, instead of the word relax, which they find is not very effective at all because it's just a concept, I'll say allow your body to warm and soften, melt and sink and get really, really heavy. And at first I encounter the inner guards and centurions, the fascia that says, what the hell? But if I hang out long enough, the body says, I don't even remember, just, okay, give me a minute. And it starts to expand, and it starts to feel like butter melting or pulling taffy, or if you've ever pulled gum out of your mouth that's warm. You know that if you pull too fast, you'll break it. So you get that just right tension on it, not too much, not too little, and you see how long you can get that thing out. Kind of another gross analogy, but I think it's a really good one because that's how it feels to me, that the body is allowing itself to expand for a change. You know, for once, it's not ready for action. And it feels to me when I receive that treatment like the most innocent, the most cared for, the most gently understood of any other time in my whole life. I am grateful that those who were patient enough to give me myofascial release weren't shocked, surprised, horrified by what I needed to let go of, but held the space so that when I opened my eyes and I expected to see this, what I saw was, and it just touched my heart that I wasn't crazy. That as that chemistry was released from the surface of my muscle and re-entered my bloodstream, and I re-experienced some of that chemistry of fear, I was allowed to say whatever I wanted to and move however I needed to. And that something that I had held for 40 years had been able to blow through like a summer storm in 10 minutes.
Mm.
And nobody had to analyze it. I didn't have to say, this is related to that one time when that kid at school hit you in the face. You know, I didn't even need to know why I was saying what I was saying or moving the way I was moving. I just needed to feel, because we can't heal what we don't feel. And the only way out is through. If you think that not letting yourself feel will make it go away, you are so wrong. It just puts it off until later, as your body is a storage tank. From the time you were taught to please sit down, please be quiet, please hold still, you learn to clamp in your throat so you don't talk too loud or tell family secrets or say rude things. And you're holding in your arms so that you don't slap people and reach out and steal other kids' toys. And you're holding in your legs so you don't kick people and run screaming when you get scolded. And you can't always be thinking about that, so you learn it at a young age and you put it on a background program. It's like an operating system on a computer that's always running, keeping you appropriate so that you can learn other things. And when you're young, you have a lot of opportunity to jump around and spaz out and move in goofy ways and discharge that holding. But the older you get and the more appropriate you become and the more dignified you are, the less likely you are to allow your body to move in any way that might look silly or foolish. And we just become straitjacketed inside. And the purpose of myofascial release is to interrupt all that holding and find pressure release valves in your body for letting this steam out, so that I can sit before you today, not the least bit shy about being on camera, and let myself glow from the inside as all those little tubules are filled with light again, and tell you this is not the face that I was headed for. I think if I were to try and recreate that face, it would look something, there'd be really deep 11s right here, and there would be a downcast face, and there would be austerity and dignity and pride and a lot of fear and skepticism. There, that's it right there. I can see it. That's who I was headed for. And I'm really happy that I have found my chosen profession that allows me to pay it forward, to not only do myofascial release, but to teach other people how to do it, and to know that there is another step beyond the table. And this is critical. I did myofascial release for a long time, and then I found that people were coming back with the same stuff over and over again. And I went in search of physical solutions to my own physical injuries. Yeah. And I found the most amazing method of getting my body alignment correct, so that if somebody comes to me with shoulder issues, I can send them out with several exercises to undo what is really common in our body. I'm going to scoot back a little so I can see if I can show you. Internal rotation, where we're always working on the computer or we're texting. We roll inward, and I can tell when I am looking at somebody standing in front of me, if I can see their knuckles that tells me that their shoulder is internally rotated up here, and I need them to be able to hang their arm down the side of their body with their palm facing their thigh. Another thing that we do is we walk with our feet turned out like this, and you would never drive your car if your tires were mounted that way. So I teach people about walking with straight feet, and I follow up in this hybrid way of doing myofascial release, and then when they get off the table saying, okay, here's how you got into that condition, and here's how we can help you stay out of that condition. And I believe that's why I've been so successful, my ability to combine those two modalities so that people are traveling from all over the world. And I show them the simplest corrections that don't cost them a thing, that they can go home with and do. There's a method also called self-myofascial release that I thought I was going to have to work really hard to bring into the world. But thank goodness there's this brilliant woman who has taken off with it. And her name is Jill Miller. She wrote a book called The Role Model, and she's touring and showing people how to use these little balls to roll on, so that once you've done your series of myofascial release and you want to go home and be empowered to know how to do it at home, you can roll out your fascial tension using these balls, distinct from foam rolling. Really important that I point out that foam rolling is not myofascial release. Foam rolling actually is crushing the fascia against the muscle, not displacing it. So it's squeezing it or actually pushing it down more instead of lifting it and shifting it. This is our goal instead of this. So the 360-degree convexity of the ball allows you to lie on it and melt and sink and warm yourself and do your own myofascial work. So a lot of my students travel. I don't know what it is about Ojai. It's a beautiful resort town, but everybody who lives here loves to go somewhere else. They travel a lot. Russia and Australia and places unknown, and they bring the ball with them. And I've asked them, can you take a picture of yourself at Machu Picchu with the ball? I think that'd be really cool. And they're able to address their issues that happen from flying. They'll take the ball with them and put it down the back of their seat while they're on the plane, and they'll work through the fascial tension so they can keep their body clean.
I have 1,000 questions to ask you now.
Please do.
Okay. Tell me the difference, if you can, between rolfing and myofascial release, because a lot of people, a lot of boomers, have done rolfing, and it was painful. I went through 10 sessions twice, and there was, and of course there were other things to be done with it. And somebody said to me, "You're a glutton for punishment." What is the difference?
Time, pressure, and permission. I've never said it that way before, but I'm glad you asked. Fascia cannot be rushed. So if you go in there and you say, let go now, it says, it needs time. So a 5-minute hold was not necessarily something that was taught back then. Pressure. They used a tremendous amount of downward pressure on points in the body, having more of a perspective that there was a spot that needed to be let go of, and that the body was a misbehaving slave that needed to be punished into submission, and that if it hurt, you needed to just breathe and blow through it, and that it was good for you. So just take it. And we exercise that way, a lot of us. Like, you shouldn't have eaten that thing, so you're just going to get on that Stairmaster. And I want us to develop a relationship with our body as a partner, a loving partner that's done everything you've asked it to do. You have said jump and it has said how high, until the day when it says, man, we're not doing that anymore. Because we've got so much fascial tightness. You know, you go to reach for something on a shelf and go, oh God, that can't be good. And then you just start putting things on lower shelves. You should have full range of movement. And with that perspective of the body as an enemy, it was painful. The other aspect of the differences, aside from time pressure, is permission.
Yes.
And when the body feels that you're treating it like an appreciated, loving partner, and that there's no rush and no judgment, it can give it up much deeper than if it feels like there's a bully waiting to get in there. And it's been miraculous, my journey from the time I started doing myofascial release till now, and how we've been holding things longer and longer and longer. And the therapist has to work less and less hard. The work that we're doing is strongly energetic. And that is not to say that it's like Reiki, because we touch you. But we hold the space and give permission for the body to let go and let it know, you know, we'll just hang out here as long as you want to, till you're ready, if you are. And if you're not, that's okay too. And one of the adages of the work is start with the symptom and look elsewhere for the cause. Because that broken ankle that you got when you were 12 on the left side caused you to put a lot more pressure on the right leg for a while. And you might have gotten imbalanced in your hips from doing that. And that hip imbalance caused your shoulders to shift. And the shift in your shoulders can cause you to chew harder on one side of your jaw. And so we might start working with the jaw that's got TMJ and it's talking to you and it's annoying or super painful, or an emergency where you've gotten into lockjaw and you can't open it. And as we work with the jaw, the body starts tattling. People will say, how do you know where to work next? Oh, that's so good. It's because the body part will kind of go like this in your face. Okay, I'm going to put my hand there. And then we'll traction that arm out this direction. And then the person on the table starts to twist in their hips, and then that left leg is just stretching, and you follow where the body is leading, and you find yourself down at that left ankle. And there's a chapter in my book called, oh yeah, I had my spleen removed. And that is to say that as the chemistry gets released from your body, you remember stuff. You really do remember stuff. So you might say, oh my gosh, I forgot I broke my left ankle when I was 12. Do you think that can be connected? And yes, it is. Because when the fascia that is torn or cut repairs, it doesn't lay down in the same direction as the muscle does anymore. It repairs like plaid. It's crisscross and diagonal and back and forth. And it's like a darn in a sock, for those of you old enough to remember darning socks. And when it begins to heal, those little fibers want to stabilize. So they begin to reach in and around structures in your body and attach. A good example would be a C-section. Mm-hmm. You had it 30 years ago, and now you're having trouble with digestion and elimination. And it can be because the fibers of fascia have attached around your intestines and are squeezing. And what used to be a nice round circle that all of your food could process through has become more of a slit with all of this tightness in your fascia. And things aren't flowing through as well. So I've never said this on an interview before either. I listen for gurgling tummies when I'm working on people, because as we loosen the fascia and this gets clearer, stuff starts to pass through that wasn't able to get through before, and the sound of a gurgling tummy tells me that the whole fascial system now has gotten in on this act of letting go.
Wow. You know, as I'm sitting here, absolutely mesmerized
Oh,
with what you're saying, I know I'm not the only one. And it occurs to me that people are going to want to get in touch with you. They may live on the other side of the planet and they want someone in their neighborhood who does this. They've seen you. And as I feel my own body just loosening and doing its own thing as you're speaking, because I'm an empath and that's not a big
me
surprise.
too.
Yeah. I know that there are people in our audience doing the same thing. They're just, just moving. And I didn't want to distract from you. So, I sat still, but I was absolutely right there with you. Tell us, are there a number of sessions? Do people come back for the same problem? How can they get in touch with somebody? How can they become like you? How can they learn this? Because we have a few minutes left, and I want you to share as much as you can, and I'd love you to come back at your next book and your next video, because I'm sure if you haven't done videos of those wonderful exercises with the rotator cuff, that would be something that people would love to see you do, because you do allow. You're very gentle and you're very allowing. And it's probably because you've had so much work done on yourself and you've studied so diligently. So I'm going to shut up and let you talk.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is, if you have had a life of hell, please know that at some point you can look back on that life and say, oh, it's for this reason. So I did the firsthand research about trauma and injury that makes me good at what I'm doing now. That's your first qualifier. What a horrible thing to say, but John Barnes, my mentor, used to tell us, if you want to get really good at this, hurt yourself really bad. So maybe you could shortcut that. I teach myofascial release in Ojai. I also travel to different states and teach myofascial release. And I also add in this part about the body mechanics. What makes a really good myofascial release therapist is someone who is empathic, and there are a lot of us out there. If you grew up thinking you were crazy because you felt everything everybody else was feeling and you thought it was yours until you found out it wasn't, and then you were pissed that everybody was feeling around you and you decided you didn't want to be around people, this could be a way to channel that wonderful empathic energy. To be able to be a midwife for people's rebirth over and over again is just miraculous. As far as finding a therapist, of course, I'm going to want you to come to our place in Ojai, lovely resort town. And our website is omsanctuary.com. That's ohmsanctuary.com. The OHM stands for Ojai Healing Movement. You can call us at 805-640-9111 and set up a retreat if you want to come and stay for a while and do a series. You can do 3 treatments a day, 3 days in a row. That's called an intensive. I know, look at your face. Many people do that. It is not like regular massage where you would get sore and achy. It transforms you from, don't give me hope, I've had too much hope and not enough results, to, this is awesome, I'm fantastic, I feel so great, I love you guys. And you carry that into your life. It gives you results that last. And then if I set you up to win with the exercises, you know how to do the maintenance part of it, the exercises and the self-myofascial release. Really good news, on my YouTube channel, Ronelle1111, all of the exercises are there, little videos for you for free. Best if I'm looking at you when you do it, but it's a place to get started. But if you live in a remote area, you can't afford to travel to see me, and you need to look up someone in your area, John F. Barnes PT, has a website where you can poke in your zip code, and there are people who have signed up through his website to be listed, so you can find someone in your area, and that website is really difficult. myofascialrelease.com. Okay, I'll spell it. MYOFASCIAL release.com.
I cannot thank you enough for being my guest today. And everybody in our audience is going to want to get a copy of this fabulous book. I could not put it down. But the book does not even begin to describe the person. Those of you who have read the book, and those of you who are now hearing or seeing Ronelle, you know this gal is alive, and the book does not even begin to tap into the energy, the love, the power, of this amazing woman. Thank you so much for being my guest. Do you have any last statement that you would like to share with our audience?
You have a lot more power than you ever knew to influence your health. And if I can give you an opportunity to have a twinge or a pain and not go immediately to worst case scenario, maybe my doctor knows better than I do, and instead of doing something drastic like pain medication and surgery, try alleviating the pressure first and see if that doesn't help before you go to the more drastic measures.
Thank you so much again for taking time out of your schedule to share your brilliance with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving me this platform.
My pleasure. And I hope that all of you will join me again when, once again, we move into the magic. Until then, this is Maxine Taylor reminding you that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Till next time.